Welcome to our channel. Today we are making Westphalian style black bread. It looks like this and smells incredibly good and tastes even better. Enjoy watching. The ingredients for our black bread are buttermilk, wheat flour, cracked wheat, cracked rye, sunflower seeds, sesame, yeast, salt, and sugar beet syrup. It looks like this, and without wanting to advertise, but it's a very common thing. I'm just covering the manufacturer's name. Everyone knows it. It's something that's very, very tasty. By the way, I neither have an advertising contract nor anything else with them, but this is simply what I always use. And because I keep getting asked where it comes from, that's why I showed it once. Yes, let's start with that right away. For the preparation, I need to prepare the buttermilk, yeast, and beet syrup. I take the buttermilk, the beet syrup, and have prepared a pot here. The milk goes into my pot. And now I add the beet syrup to the buttermilk. It's very important that I do it this way because here I can mix it together nicely and thoroughly. Of course, it's a bit of a sticky affair, that's clear. But it will be all the better later when I use these products here. So that's the mixture. Now I take the yeast, crumble it in as well, and mix everything together. This way I get a good distribution in my dough later on. I'll do this once more briefly. Warm, but really just lukewarm. You can also do this before adding the yeast, but in this case it doesn't matter because it's really just for a very short time. I bring it to a temperature of about 25 degrees. Easy to do. So I warm it up and then we continue. So the next steps for my black bread. Relatively simple. I have now warmed my little mixture of buttermilk, beet syrup, and yeast. A note here, you can of course also warm the buttermilk and beet syrup first, then add the yeast. I do it like this. I really warmed it very, very carefully in a pot. Doesn't harm the yeast. Nothing can happen over 25, maximum 30 degrees. Next, I take my flour mixture, put it in my bowl, and the grains. They go into the bowl along with the salt. These are all the dry ingredients. And I mix them a little, really just once, briefly. Gone through a bit rudimentarily. So that's it already. That's just set aside. Now nothing else happens except that I go through my mixture here once more, stir it and add it. I want to have everything, of course. And that's actually all because now we're just making a mixture. We create a mass because for the dough, it's already too soft. It also needs to be soft. We create a mass. It looks like this. I now let it mix well in the machine with the paddle mixer for about 5 minutes. And then I already put it into the mold and they go directly into the oven. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. I had the rye bread mixture in the machine with the paddle mixer for 5 minutes now. It looks like this. That's why I refer to it as a mass. It still flows a little. It needs to be this soft. That's exactly ideal. What happens now? I now fill this mass into such boxes which I have nicely buttered. These are so-called 20 centimeter boxes, as described in the recipe, indicating their size. Of course, you can also use larger boxes, then you get one loaf. I like to make 2 small ones. They freeze wonderfully, and you can portion them better when eating. You don't always have 5 people at the table, so a loaf is quickly gone. Therefore, it might be a bit more economical. Yes, and now I'm filling in the mixture. Typically, a 20 centimeter box holds 900 grams, 930 grams. That fits perfectly. A quick word about the baking process. I often hear from people who like to make rye bread themselves that it takes so long. What happens here? They go into the oven at 130 degrees for 2 hours and 45 minutes. During those 2 hours, you don't have to do anything. You can do all sorts of other things during that time. After that, I take them out and wrap them in aluminum foil again so they can mature. Just set them aside for 2 hours. and then they can cool down in peace. That's the whole hype. It's not work at all. It's done very quickly. You can get the ingredients at a good mill, in a good health food store. Very easygoing, no problem. Yes, and then you end up with something very delicious. So I'll stop talking now and start working. Also important at this point, or just as a tip, I wet my spatula because there is sugar beet syrup in here and it sticks a little. So I can check where I am. Yes, I can go a little longer. So once. Keep wetting it again and again. The better it can be put into the mold without making a complete mess. A little wonderful. Now both have almost approximately the same weight. It's even about 920 grams. I also always recommend cleaning up anything that has been spilled immediately. As I said, it tends to stick. This is how it looks now. This is how it goes into the oven without steam. Slide it in, calmly finish the rest, set the timer for 2 or 3.5 hours. And what usually comes out is a very delicious and good rye bread. The rye bread was now in the oven for 2 hours and 45 minutes at 130 degrees. I took it out, it's still very hot. Yes, it certainly is. You have to be quick with it. I need a cloth now. Well done, you can hardly hear it, but it's just right. It has a nice compact shape, looks like this. This now goes wrapped in aluminum foil, which I have here. Once again for 2 hours. In the kitchen at a normal room temperature, not warm, not cold, so it can settle. This is very important. Just wrap it, leave it in, then after 2 hours, take it out of the aluminum foil and let it cool down normally. It can take up to 3 hours until it's really completely cold. Because this is a very dense bread, it retains heat for a long time. Right? That was our video on Westphalian style black bread. I hope you enjoyed it and that it gave you a bit of courage to see that making such a bread is quite simple. The taste and the nice shelf life. And really, the good aroma of this bread and its digestibility make it worthwhile. The effort is definitely worth it, and it justifies it as well. I thank you for watching, and I hope you also had fun. As always, you can find the recipe for our black bread in the description below our video. I can only thank you for your attention and say see you next time on our channel.